Sports loves strength, but it rarely shows you the cost of being honest. Tonight on Silent Fame, we're stepping into the locker rooms, stadiums, and Olympic arenas of 10 gay Black athletes who chose truth over safety. Some lost careers, some lost peace. One lost his life. As you watch, comment their number when a story hits you. Ready to see what courage really looks like? Let's begin. 1. Justin Fashanu. The first and the forgotten before, pride tapes, rainbow laces, and inclusive ad campaigns, there was one man who stood alone. Justin Fashanu wasn't just a footballer, he was a storm. Fast, flamboyant, and fiercely talented, he became the first Black footballer in the UK to sign a $1 million contract. He should have been a legend. But Justin carried a truth the world wasn't ready for. He was gay. And in 1990, when he came out publicly, that truth became a weapon used against him. Instead of applause, he got headlines soaked in mockery. Instead of protection, he got silence. His own brother, also a famous footballer, publicly disowned him. Coaches ridiculed him. Clubs cut ties. The beautiful game turned ugly. The locker rooms grew colder. Doors that once opened wide now slammed shut. Fashanu spent his final years bouncing between teams in different countries, never finding footing, never escaping whispers. Imagine having the courage to be the first, and then being punished for it every day of your life. Imagine hearing jeers from the stands, knowing they weren't about your game, but about who you were. Justin carried that burden alone for years, until it broke him. In 1998, at just 37, he took his own life. Justin didn't just come out. He walked into fire, knowing full well what it could cost. And it did cost him his career, his peace, maybe even his life. Yet his bravery built the foundation others now stand on. Without Justin, there might be no openly gay players, no pride nights, no jerseys with rainbows. He was the first, and he was forgotten. Until now. Let us remember him not just in grief, but in gratitude. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you say to Justin if he could hear you today? Drop 1 if you believe it's time football gave Justin the honor he always deserved. 2. Michael Sam, the draft pick who kissed and shook the world. In 2014, Michael Sam did what no one in the NFL had ever dared. He came out as gay before being drafted. In one unforgettable moment, he kissed his boyfriend on live TV after being picked by the St. Louis Rams, and the image sent shockwaves across sports, media, and Middle America. A powerhouse linebacker and SEC Defensive Player of the Year, Michael wasn't just talented, he was top tier. But the moment he stepped into the light, everything changed. Sports networks debated his distraction potential. Commentators asked whether the NFL was ready. Some owners went quiet. Coaches backed away. Despite his talent, Sam was cut before the regular season began. He later played briefly in Canada, then walked away from football altogether. For all his physical power, what Michael faced was a different kind of tackle. One made of fear, bias, and invisible rules. He wasn't just fighting for a roster spot. He was fighting for the right to exist fully, honestly, under the stadium lights. But if you think Michael Sam didn't win, think again. His kiss, that one soft moment in a sport built on violence, cracked the armor of NFL masculinity. He didn't just come out. He kicked the closet door off its hinges, with the helmet still on. He showed millions of queer kids that visibility was possible, even in the most macho of arenas. Today, every rainbow cleat, every Pride Month campaign, every athlete who posts their truth owes something to that kiss. If you watched that moment and felt your heart catch in your throat, you weren't alone. Comment with 2 if you remember it, or share how that image made you feel. Did it change your view of courage? 3. John Amaechi, the intellectual who outgrew the game. At 6'10", and Oxford-educated, John Amaechi was never built to be ordinary. He played for the Orlando Magic and Utah Jazz in the NBA, but never chased the spotlight. Quiet, thoughtful, and strategic on and off the court, John kept a secret through all his professional years. He was gay. He didn't come out until 2007, after retirement, making him the first former NBA player to do so. And when he didn't just make headlines. He made sense. Unlike the tabloid exposés or dramatic press conferences, Amaechi's revelation came in the form of a book, Man in the Middle, a memoir as layered as he is, filled not with scandal but with introspection, dignity, and a deep desire to make the world less cruel for the next person like him. Imagine spending every game, every practice, every interview, wondering if one misstep could cost you everything. Not because of your talent, but because of who you are. John carried that weight quietly. He smiled through it. He played through it. And when he finally spoke, the world listened. He knew coming out while still playing would have meant the end of his career. So instead, he waited. Then used his post-basketball life to become a psychologist, leadership coach, and one of the most respected voices on inclusion in the UK. He traded cheers for chapters, courts for classrooms, and he never looked back. John reminds us that not every athlete wants to be an icon. Some just want to live with integrity and end up changing the world anyway. His story isn't the loudest, but it might be the most powerful. Comment with 3. If you believe being openly queer in sports is just as much about mental strength as it is physical endurance. Or share in the comments what part of John's journey moved you most. 4. Derrick Gordon, the first out man on the court. In 2014, the world of Division I college basketball stood still for a moment. Not because of a buzzer beater or a Cinderella story, but because Derrick Gordon, a strong, athletic guard from UMass, came out as gay. He wasn't just coming out to his teammates or his coach, he was coming out to the entire world. And he became the first openly gay men's Division I basketball player in history. He did it quietly, but with conviction. After years of hiding, whispering, and pretending, Derrick simply said, "I'm tired of hiding who I am." The courage it took to stand in front of locker rooms full of testosterone, tradition, and unspoken rules cannot be overstated. He didn't know if he'd be benched, mocked, or embraced. He jumped anyway. What happened next? His team supported him, his game got sharper, and his sense of self finally felt whole. Derrick once said, "When I came out, I became a better teammate, a better player, a better man." But the world didn't always make it easy. He faced online hate, uncomfortable stares, and doubts about whether he'd be taken seriously by scouts. And yet, he endured. He became a mentor for queer youth, a firefighter after graduation, a symbol of resilience for anyone who thinks they have to choose between their dreams and their identity. Drop a 4 in the comments if you believe being your true self is the most powerful play of all. Or share what part of Derrick's journey gave you strength. 5. Will Sheridan, the forward who turned truth into art. Will Sheridan was a 6'8" powerhouse for Villanova, helping lead his team to the Sweet 16 in the 2005 NCAA tournament. But his biggest victory didn't happen on the court. It happened years later when he stepped forward and told the world, "I'm gay." At the time, there were no playbooks for that kind of move, no safety nets, no Nike deals waiting. It was 2011, and men's college basketball was still deeply steeped in silence when it came to queerness. Will's decision was radical, brave, and beautifully human. He didn't just come out, he evolved. He transformed into an artist, performer, and advocate. Under his music persona, he turned pain into rhythm, identity into lyrics. In interviews, he often said, "I'm not just a basketball player who's gay. I'm a whole person who has something to say." His presence challenged assumptions about masculinity, about athletes, about Black gay men who refused to shrink themselves. He became living proof that you can wear both sneakers and stilettos and still own the stage. Will's journey is about expansion, about not just surviving, but thriving. If you've ever had to reinvent yourself after coming out or rediscover your voice, his story is yours too. Drop 5 in the comments if you believe being honest about who you are is the loudest anthem you can sing. 6. Layshia Clarendon, the game changer with no label. Layshia Clarendon doesn't fit into any box, and that's exactly why they matter. An All-American at Cal, a WNBA veteran, and a member of the USA national team pool, Layshia was already breaking records. But their most important contribution wasn't on a scoreboard. It was in the language of freedom. In 2020, Clarendon came out as non-binary and transgender. They use they, them, and she, her pronouns. They became the first openly non-binary and trans player in the WNBA and the first to undergo top surgery while still active in the league. That act wasn't just personal, it was historic. Clarendon faced scrutiny from fans, pushback from the league, and the constant pressure of representing multiple marginalized identities at once. Black, queer, non-binary, athlete, activist. But they never stepped back. On the court, they were a force. Off it, they were a revolution. Speaking at rallies, pushing for pay equity, and fighting for a more inclusive league, not just for them, but for the next generation. Clarendon reminds us that gender isn't a boundary, it's a beginning. If their story resonates with you, or if you've ever felt like there was no place for someone like you in sports or society, drop 6 in the comments, because sometimes just existing is the boldest move of all. 7. Jason Collins, the silence breaker of the NBA. Before pride flags were stitched onto jerseys and diversity ads aired during playoff games, Jason Collins made a decision that shook the hardwood to its core. In April 2013, he became the first active NBA player to come out as gay. And he did it in his own words, on the cover of Sports Illustrated, with a sentence that would echo through sports history. "I'm a 34-year-old NBA center, I'm Black, and I'm gay." Until that moment, the idea of an openly gay man in one of America's most watched leagues seemed impossible. The locker room was sacred, the image was macho, and the silence was deafening. But Jason broke it, with dignity and without apology. What followed was a media firestorm, yes, but also an outpouring of support from teammates, coaches, even former President Barack Obama. Yet behind the headlines was a quieter story. A man who had played 12 seasons in the shadows, never once knowing if his truth would cost him the game he loved. When Jason returned to the court later that year with the Brooklyn Nets, the crowd stood. Not because he was the highest scorer, but because he was finally visible. And in doing so, he made space for thousands who had been invisible for too long. His story isn't about stats, it's about standing. And sometimes that's the most powerful move you can make. Drop 7 in the comments if you remember the day the silence broke and what it meant to you. 8. Orlando Cruz, the boxer who fought with both fists and truth. In the brutal world of professional boxing, where pain is power and masculinity is currency, Orlando Cruz did the unthinkable. In 2012, at the height of his career, he came out as gay. He became the first openly gay active professional boxer, and in doing so, stepped into the most dangerous ring of all: public perception. Boxing wasn't built for softness. It cheered for blood, not vulnerability. But Orlando knew that if he didn't fight for himself, no one would. "I have always been and always will be a proud gay man," he declared. The world flinched. Promoters hesitated. Opponents whispered. Fans questioned. And then he stepped into the ring and won. He kept training, kept throwing punches, kept showing the world that sexuality didn't make him weaker. It made him braver. Orlando wore rainbow shorts to matches. He dedicated fights to LGBTQ+ youth. He turned a hyper-masculine stage into a platform for compassion, truth, and pride. Not every bout ended in victory, but every appearance was a revolution. He showed queer kids that you can take up space, even in places where you were told you didn't belong. That you can be fierce, feminine, and fearless, all in the same breath. Drop 8 in the comments if Orlando's courage knocked you off your feet. Or tell us, what's the bravest fight you've ever faced? 9. Brittney Griner, the giant who refused to shrink, standing 6'9". Tall, Brittney Griner was never meant to blend in. And she never tried to. From her high school days in Texas to becoming a 2-time Olympic gold medalist and WNBA superstar, Brittney was a force of nature, on and off the court. But what truly sets her apart isn't just the dunks or the medals, it's that she was unapologetically herself in a world that tried everything to make her small. Openly gay since college, Brittney faced taunts about her voice, her build, her walk. People questioned her femininity. Commentators made jokes. Fans crossed lines. But she kept showing up with shaved hair, tattoos, and a quiet fire that said, "I am exactly who I am." And then came 2022. Wrongfully detained in Russia, Brittney became a symbol not just of injustice, but of resilience. For nearly a year, the world watched and waited as politics played with her life. And when she finally came home, she came back stronger, not just physically, but spiritually. She returned to the WNBA, to her teammates, to her purpose, with a message more powerful than any speech. "I'm still here." Brittney is not just a basketball player. She's a mirror, reflecting what it means to be queer, Black, and a woman in a world that often makes survival feel like resistance. Drop 9. If her strength during captivity moved you. Or, if she reminds you that coming back is the loudest form of victory. 10. Raven Saunders, the rebel who lifted more than weights. When Raven Saunders stepped onto the Olympic podium in Tokyo, 2021, silver medal around her neck, arms crossed above her head in a bold X, it wasn't just a pose, it was a protest, a symbol, a statement, one that echoed across continents. This is for the intersection where all oppressed people meet. Raven isn't your typical Olympian. She's queer, she's Black. She battles depression, she listens to rap, wears superhero masks, and trains like a storm. She once called herself the Hulk, and honestly, there's no better word. As a shot put champion, Raven lifts more than metal, she lifts stigma. Open about her sexuality, her mental health, and her identity, she became the face of a new kind of strength. The kind that isn't always smiling. The kind that knows pain intimately, but still chooses to show up. Raven turned vulnerability into power and activism into a platform. But behind the medals and headlines was a beating heart. Just days after her Olympic podium protest, Raven lost her mother. Her world cracked open. And yet, even in grief, she didn't disappear. She returned to the conversation, louder, softer, stronger. She reminded us that being a champion isn't about being unbreakable. It's about breaking and still choosing to rise. Her journey is a love letter to anyone who's ever felt too different, too broken, too loud, too much. to the rebels, the fighters, the survivors, and to you. Yes, you reading this far. If Raven's story moved you, if any of these athletes made your heart beat a little harder, stronger, prouder, you're not alone. Drop 10 if you believe that strength comes in all forms, and if you want more stories like these, stories that aren't always easy but always real, subscribe to our channel. Join the movement. Let's keep lifting each other. Because Pride isn't just a month, it's a legacy. These athletes didn't just play the game, they changed it and paid the price, so someone like you might pay a little less. From Justin Fashanu to Raven Saunders, every coming out here was an act of survival and rebellion. Tell us in the comments, which number stayed with you? If these stories moved you, like this video, subscribe, and stay with Silent Fame for more voices they tried to silence.